Awesome. Welcome, everyone. How's everyone doing this morning, evening, wherever you're joining from? Thank you for joining us today. My name is Stacy. I'm going to be the moderator for today's interview with Salome. Welcome to YouTube Live with GMAT Club. Today we have Salome, who's Stanford GSB class of 2025, joining from Kyiv to talk about her MBA application journey. Before we get started, I do want to give a quick plug to the MBA Spotlight Fair that GMAT Club is hosting. It'll be tomorrow, the 13th, and a day after the 14th, as well as the 21st. There'll be lots of sessions with admissions committees from top MBA programs, as well as student panels, expert panels with admissions consultants, etc. So the sign up is right now in the comment box down there. If you haven't registered yet, you can sign up for specific sessions. Awesome. So, before we get started as well, if there are any questions that you have for Salome, please put them in the chat. We will cover them after the interview. So I think we can get started. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us, Salome. It's so great to have you with us today. Would you be able to give us a brief introduction? We'd love to learn more about you.
Of course. And thank you. Really excited to be here. Thank you for hosting this interview event today. So my name is Salome. I am originally from Kyiv, Ukraine, which is where I'm located right now. I just graduated my undergrad a few weeks ago from Georgetown Business School, and I am very excited to be joining Stanford Gsb in just a year of time. This journey truly has been phenomenal, eye-opening, and revolutionary for me. Started in a freshman year when I co-founded Movadex, a company that does product development for websites and apps for clients all around the world, primarily startups. And we grew to amazing 35 people. And the life truly was exciting up until in February. As many of you know, Ukraine entered this really ruthless, there's no words to explain the reality, to be honest. So the war started, and our reality truly turned upside down, and everything you were doing day to day all of a sudden changes. And that was true for me too. And I went through this entire journey of first being just stuck in a bomb shelter, trying to join my Zoom classes from a bomb shelter to run the company, to then transforming into a wartime leader. And throughout that journey, you really first reflect on all of your experiences and who you are in this field. And then one of the things that happened in the past 4 months was also me coming to the realization that I want to pursue social impact journey, and I want to continue sustaining our social operations that we have at Movadex, and applying to Stanford, getting my MBA degree in a place that is so fundamentally geared towards really raising leaders of tomorrow that will change this world for better seemed like the best place for me to apply to. And that's what I did as a round 3 applicant. The process itself was, again, phenomenal, and happy to go further into the details. But really an experience that I will remember forever, and forever grateful to now have this opportunity to soon join class of 2025 and get my MBA in Silicon Valley.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. That really is a absolutely inspiring and pretty crazy story that you get to share with us today. I think we'd love to dive into some more specific parts of your application journey, especially around, kind of your unique situation. So I think one of the first things we'd love to first know is, how did you pick Stanford? Why Stanford? Was it something about the culture or the program that attracted you?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I think that with this question, really chose the place that to me has been my dream school, my dream place. But there are other many moving parts into making that decision. So for full disclosure, only applied to Stanford as I was doing this while I was in Ukraine, and I really had to prioritize and make the choice that I had to make, and thus Stanford. The reasons, the why kind of I chose this place. Well, first, I'm an entrepreneur myself, a young female aspiring entrepreneur in tech. I have 35 member team that we're running, and going to Palo Alto and the kind of the Greater Bay Area seemed like a perfect fit for me to continue both growing the operations that I have, but then also shifting to focus on making social impact and just supporting social causes back in Ukraine. In the beginning of war, which was in February, right, I really changed how I view what I do as a leader, as a relationship builder, as a salesperson, as a manager, right? So many things have really then turned into one thing to, first of all, growing stronger together and then supporting people who are in need. In our case, we supported both financially and supported with relocation and housing for many refugees. And this is only the beginning. And it's only kind of a small drop in the huge ocean of so many problems that we currently have and so many lives that have been destroyed. So with that in mind, I really knew that I'm lacking many things on how I can be a better supporter for others. I don't know how to really scale social operations. I really don't know much into social impact investing, and kind of going through this thinking really put me in a mindset of finding a place where I can nurture my entrepreneur within me, but also grow academically, professionally, personally, to really support this big idea that I have that I currently am implementing, but hopefully will be scaling as I go on campus in fall 2023.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I was curious about kind of your unique situation in terms of, I think you mentioned, you had to connect with the admissions committee to talk about, kind of what was happening and how your typical application process maybe isn't as typical as some of the other folks who might be watching or joining with us today. Can you share a little bit more about that, kind of cadence and communication that you had and how you approached it with the admissions committee?
Of course. So from my perspective, let me put you how this was happening on my side of things. So I was going from places, right, still in Ukraine, and I went into different information sessions, and I realized that it's a time to apply, but it was really getting close to the deadline. So I was also trying to see how I can really optimize the time I had and the resources in order to be successful at completing all the steps required, because application cannot be done in one day, and it's something that you have to put time and effort into. So I realized that GMAT, for example, was something I was not able to take at that time before the deadline, just because of the nature of the reality I was in. I had to move places. There was not really a safe place for me to sit down and take the test. Air sirens are going off. You never know when it's going to happen, and you can't even schedule the online exam for that. So that's why I asked that. I thought if I could take the GMAT after the deadline, when I would be arriving to the States in early May, that would be the best solution, at least for me. And so what I did is just reach out directly to the admissions team at Stanford, really not even knowing if I would get the correspondence back and get this going. And they reached out just within a day, and they were so supportive and really helpful, showed me the steps. And I think even throughout the next steps, as I was traveling from Ukraine to US, as I was scheduling an interview with an alumni, all of these steps have been so supportive from their team. And it just shows how well crafted their admissions process is and how truly personalized it is, right? They know their applicants, and they are really making their best to make it work, right? Especially for those, I think, that are extremely passionate about getting into Stanford, which I think I am very passionate about the school and the program itself too.
Absolutely. It's nice to hear that the admissions committee was so supportive through the process, and that they were very receptive to any kind of communication that you had with them. Given that you talked a little bit about your GMAT score, and it's a headliner for this event, so I'm sure lots of people are dying to learn more about that experience. But do you think, what was the GMAT experience like for you? I know you mentioned it wasn't necessarily a typical preparation journey. What did you find challenging about it? Any tips? And then how do you think that fit into, like you said, the holistic kind of evaluation of your profile and your passion?
Thank you, Stacy. Yes, so GMAT I think is the totally kind of separate part of this story, right? So when I submitted my application in early April, I knew that the next step for me would be GMAT, and I really thought that I would be able to start preparing while in Ukraine. Again, didn't work out the way I planned it for the many other kind of initiatives I've been involved in throughout these days, and I just felt that my presence there was so crucial and vital that really didn't have much time to study. So I arrived to the States, right, and I was graduating, and while I was taking my finals, graduating, taking my Stanford alumni interview, I also was preparing speed prep for GMAT, right? So that's, I think, 2 weeks in total. I kind of think that I'm the last person to give any advice. I got 650. I call it the bare minimum. Really, when I took it, I think, and I saw the score, I couldn't think that that would even qualify for Stanford. And then once I got the positive response and the admissions letter and the call, they called me, right? I was so truly surprised because what you said, they really view their applicants holistically, right? I only had 2 weeks to prepare for GMAT, and yes, the score is far from the average for the school, but because they spent time on each applicant, I think that they tried to really evaluate you from all of the metrics, from all of your angles, really trying to understand who you are as a person. That just gives you opportunity to just show yourself and be yourself with all the weaknesses and strength, and then they make the ultimate decision. So to me, this just only supports the idea that I had about this admissions team and this just Stanford overall, right? They truly kind of bring people together from all around the world, and there's no one single metrics that determines whether you qualify or not. So I think that this is really powerful and really incredible about the school too.
Right. Absolutely. Are there any, I guess, tips for the viewers today in terms of how you're talking about how you present yourself and your passion and your goals in different ways? Is it through essays, through the interview, alumni interview? Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you were able to present different kind of facets of yourself?
Thank you, Stacy. Well, I think that to me, it was taking time to reflect. With MBA, this is kind of the next big step in your education that really is tied to your professional experience too, right? There are many reasons why people go into MBA. Not everybody is pursuing MBA specifically or master's program in general. So when you're applying, I think the one big thing to do is sit down and understand yourself, like be kind of communicate with your own self and be very honest with what you want to do, honest with your future, right? In my application, I was transparent as it can get, right? I talked about both my weaknesses and strength. I talked about all the different kind of pivotal events in my life that I thought I would never bring out because they were like happened 6 years ago or 10 years ago, right? So I think this is what you need to do, the exercise you need to go through. Sit down and reflect. With me, I didn't have much time to do that, but I think if I would give advice here is if you journal, or even if you don't, just open your camera roll on phone, look through entirety of your life events all of the life events that you've had, and kind of go back in time, close your eyes and think, what was I feeling at that time, and how did that event influence who I am today? And I think through that exercise, either through going your diary or the camera roll, right, you'll be able to self-reflect in a very guided way. And from that, you should identify then what it is that you want to present in your application.
Absolutely. And kind of going off of that vein of, kind of doing that initial research and reflection as well for on yourself, how did you go about, kind of starting the MBA research that you took to then, kind of decide to apply to Stanford, or, what kind of steps did you take in terms of research, or any advice that you have for any of our viewers today?
Thank you. So I was aware of the MBA program in general. I had it. I had the experience of working with MBAs through different projects I've had in my undergraduate experience at Georgetown. I studied in a business school as an undergrad, so that also gave me really good perspective into what MBA program is. So my research was more into the specifics of each MBA program that the schools can offer. And again, speaking about the Stanford and why I chose GSB is I was really clear with the goals I wanted to reach, and they were really in the way, kind of in the path of social entrepreneurship, but also growing personally and exploring and having that kind of space to be yourself. I think that this is how my research was shaped, truly trying to understand what it is that what we'll be doing as a Stanford student, right? My Monday or my Friday, how is it going to look like? And as I was going through researching clubs, classes, social activities, uh, professional activities, right? Personal experiences that you can go through, it really made sense that, to me at least, that Stanford was the right fit. And I'm really excited that the MBA admissions team also thought that way. And now I am part of this community.
Great. I think something that you mentioned earlier, and clearly in the back of your screen as well as your title, is about your startup, Movadex. Do you plan to continue Movadex through your time at Stanford, and how do you plan to use those resources? Kind of what's your journey for the next year or so before you enter the MBA program?
Yep. So next year, I'm still in Ukraine, currently in Kiev. It's very sunny, and it kind of puts you in a different reality. And you for a second, you forget what is happening around here. But next year, I really hope to continue, and I will be continuing running all these social activities that we have supporting people. So at Movadex, we, again, as I said, we build products, which is websites and apps for startups, right? Just really, this is the tech outsourcing firm agency that supports young entrepreneurs or startup founders or enterprises as well. But this is kind of one thing that we are very passionate about, building tech products and turning ideas into reality. So now we're 35 members and growing actively. And one of our kind of three main buckets that we had as the war started was to support people from the disaster zones, especially the eastern part where so many people were relocating, were in the need of housing support, financial support, personal support. This is something that we tried to, at least in some way, and it's never enough, but in at least some small portion to support these people. So we hired people from Kharkiv, right? We have families that have been housed in Lviv, which is where our headquarters are located, the city closer to Poland, right? We're supporting our army, we're supporting IT army. Kind of really, this is about how the company responds in a crisis situation. And I learned about this in my case studies for my management classes at my undergrad experience, during my undergrad experience, right? And you think that you'll be prepared, but when it actually happens, you're like, okay, you can't really go by the plan, but you already know how other companies kind of responded, and it may not have been the same crisis, but you have at least something in the back of your mind that helps you to keep going. And again, at least if I can say humbly, we have this incredible team of 35 extremely resilient, strong, passionate, inspiring people that continue to work from the bomb shelter. Like, our team goes down to the bomb shelter and they have Wi-Fi there, and they continue to work. They continue to support our clients' projects. They continue to innovate. And when you see this, you're truly mind blown by the strength and unity of the people that you represent, which is Ukrainian people, right? And I'm really proud to be Ukrainian and to kind of see that this happens. You may see this in the news, but it happens. This is actually what happens in reality, right? So the Mba started 4 years ago. I was a young entrepreneur, still am, but really passionate about tech, found an amazing team and a co-founder, and it just started. And when the COVID hit and I got moved home and I was in Ukraine for 2.5 years of my 4-year undergraduate experience, I really had the time to focus on growing this company and growing our operations and almost like getting that blue book professional experience that MBA programs are really often looking for. So even though I did not follow the regular path, if you will, I think that for Stanford, for the GSB admissions team, it's still qualified as experience I've had and as the one I will continue to grow. And I think the last thing I'll say, being in Silicon Valley, again, in the greater Bay Area, it is the best place to connect with entrepreneurs in many industries, and also to grow our social cause initiatives and to grow our social operations. So again, really excited about that.
Yeah, truly inspiring kind of stuff that you're doing with MoveDex. And I'm excited to see, kind of the future of the company, especially with you leading it. I'm curious about, the deferred program. I know that you apply, kind of through your undergrad experience. I think a lot of, folks at GMAT Club are, still in undergrad, deciding if they want to pursue an MBA or not. I know you've talked a little bit about, why you decided to pursue an MBA and why Stanford was the, kind of best place for you, especially as an entrepreneur. But would love to learn more about kind of challenges or surprises that kind of occurred through applying, to a deferred program in undergrad, as opposed to someone who might have, a few more years of experience.
Thank you. So I think that with the process, with the entire process, I wouldn't say there were any problems, right? The process was really well crafted. Entire application, the profile, my Stanford, looks amazing. It's very intuitive, user friendly, and you can really kind of, as long as you know your story and as long as you know who kind of you have done that self reflection exercise, you'll be good. I think that it is one challenge, right? When you're applying as a person while you're graduating from your undergrad for a program that usually accepts people with 5 years of experience, it really kind of puts you in the mindset of, am I really qualified? Is it really something that I should be doing right now? But again, I was very clear in my goals and desires, and that journey also was kind of another self-reflection exercise I've done. Like, is this the right place for me to go in the next year? Instead of like going there in 5 years or 7 years, right after I get more experience. I think that as a deferred applicant, you get this experience, you get this time, and they say it's one thing that's really lucrative about the deferred program is that you have 1 or 2 years or 3 years, depending how much they give you, the deferral they give you, to explore yourself in many ways and to kind of still get the professional experience and then go and pursue your MBA career. So deferred program to me is, again, something that a person should choose, at least see whether that's something they would like to pursue. In my case, at first I thought that fall 2022, which is just in 3 months, would be the best option for me personally. But because I was qualified as a deferred admit, right, the admissions team, as they reviewed the profile, they suggested the deferral. And I think at first I didn't go through the thinking process of why, when, and how, but then giving it another thought and going through the plan and the steps, I think that this was the best decision for me personally. And the team, again, they're the professionals, so they are doing an incredible job and making the right decisions, I think. Right, so them offering this deferral to me, in my case, 1 year deferral now, is a great opportunity because I still have the time to support Ukraine in the times of the utmost crisis, which is still happening right the very second, right? But also then hopefully moving to Silicon Valley to pursue my MBA program for 2 years and then coming back and kind of with breath of fresh air and the new perspective and the new things I've learned, applying it here in a place where hopefully by then will be a peaceful country, rebuilding to the greater level. So just really hoping and praying for that.
Absolutely. I'm curious, you talked a little bit about geographical location, kind of being from Kyiv and running your company from there, as well as, obviously Stanford's on the west coast of the United States. Are there
Yes.
any, I guess, preferences or where you see yourself more long term? Are you hoping to kind of stay in the United States or move somewhere else, maybe back home? What does that look like for you now and in the near future?
Yeah, so I think this is something that our family will be kind of making decisions as we go. Me and my husband are in love with Ukraine, so we're both from here, and I have spent past 2.5 years in Ukraine while studying at Georgetown remotely. So when the COVID started, at first it seemed like the end of the world, but then it turned out to be this amazing opportunity. And I moved to States in 2016 as I started my high school experience at Emma Willard School with support of Ukraine Global Scholars. And then kind of I went through application process at Georgetown and I got accepted to my undergrad. And then all of a sudden I got pulled back home. Um, and I think that this is, again, very unique about my experience because I really thought that it was going to be blue book path of graduating, going to kind of get my either consulting or IB experience, and then after that probably master's program. But it really changed in freshman year as I co-founded the company, and in sophomore year as I moved to back to Ukraine, and then in senior years I got married. So really, life brings you to it gives you kind of you can never be sure in your plan because life changes and you just need to be resilient and in some ways adaptable. So to answer your question, I think we'll be there for 2 years. And in my case, at least now, it has been that I have been moving back and forth. And I have been raised cosmopolitan, which is being really a citizen of a world. But I think that my presence in Ukraine will be of utmost need after I graduate. So that will be, I guess, my short-term plan after graduation, and then we'll see how the life rolls and where it brings us next.
Absolutely, it's very exciting. Um, Great. So I think we've gotten quite a few comments in the live chat. So I'd love to be able to pivot now to kind of be able to answer a little bit a few of those. So let me just quickly go through. So one of the first questions, and I don't think we covered this, but I think someone asked if there's any admissions consultants that you used, or if you have any suggestions, or if you decided to go through it yourself, and what that process was like and that decision-making process.
Yep. Thank you for the question. So I only had really a very short amount of time to submit my application, which is why I only had 3 or 4 hours working with a consultant that I got recommended by a friend of mine. It's Avanti Prep with Greg. So he reviewed my essay once, and then we had this amazing interview prep session for like a few hours. I think that with admission consultants here, it's really about getting their professional expertise in approaching the application process, right? Because especially if you're doing it for the first time, as I was doing, and then if you have a very unique circumstance situation, right? You really need to learn how to present this in the best kind of systematic approach in terms of how you make it understandable, right? Because it takes some time for me to go through my story, and if it's again, if it follows a different path or not a standard, I guess, if you can if you may call that, right, not if it's not a standard path, you'll need to give an extra effort into making it clear what it is exactly that you have done in the past and you want to do in the future. So with that in mind, I think that admission consultants are the great place to kind of stop by. They give this expertise in how you can position yourself, how you can really, in a concise manner, talk about your experience, your background. With Greg, it was really incredible because he agreed to help in, I think, a day, in just like a day. It was right before the deadline, right, that I asked for at least to give some feedback on the essay, and then he did. And then once I got the interview offer, right, he also helped to prepare for that. So he has been an amazing source, and I think that you should find someone that you truly trust and you're comfortable with, because you'll be talking about your background and your personal story. And for that, you definitely need to be comfortable with whoever it is that you're talking on the other end of your screen or in person. So yes, but I also think, by the way, that there are like more packages you can do, like a 6-month long package or a 3-month long package. I only had like 5 hours ish. So if you have time and resources, and if you think that it's a good fit, why not? Like, I would definitely recommend getting some expertise into your application process.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like that was a popular question. I think we briefly touched upon this, but the answer is yes, you do plan on continuing to run your company as you complete your MBA. I think one of the follow-up questions right behind it was just in terms of how you decided to start your company, your freshman year of college. What inspired you?
Well, so I think that here, fear is the biggest thing that holds you back, right? Let's start with this. And that's the thing that I had. Like, well, again, same question. Why started so young? I have no experience. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? Kind of the same thinking process that many entrepreneurs are going through. I had this, and I still have, amazing co-founder Noor, who started Movadex, right, and then had other tech startups in his background, and he had no fear. He just went and did it, right? And I took him as an example, as a role model, where you just look at the person, you see that whatever it is that you want to do, you go and you try, and if you fail, you learn, and then you go back up and you try again. So that's the approach if I will, copy pasted from my co-founder, because really inspired me. And I tried, let me see and try if it works on my end, right? And it did, because at first, again, you definitely face some challenges, but you learn how to react and you learn how to resolve your problems, and that becomes your strength ultimately. I also think that there's no really age limit range of when it is best to start a company. You can start it at age 15, 10. You can start it when you're 80. Really doesn't matter, as long as you're passionate, you want to do what it is that you're passionate about, right? And you are willing to dedicate your time, because without your time and your effort, it will go nowhere, right? And if you have that, I think that you're in a good shape. And if it doesn't work out, again, look at everything that happens in your life as experience, bad or good. It shapes you personally, and it gives you like the history, experience, the background that you will then use in your next steps in the career.
Absolutely. Even if you fail, you at least have lessons learned. But if you never try, you'll never succeed. So it's definitely inspiring. I think another question that came up was, do you plan to maybe explore some other careers during your MBA, through the internship, or after the MBA? I know and pursue, kind of your startup on the side, or do you plan to go back full time to Movadex?
So I applied to, and the reason I applied to MBA was because I wanted to do social impact, social entrepreneurship, kind of scale the processes that we're doing right now to impact more people and to support more people. So to answer that question, I'll definitely be adding another aspect of my day-to-day into my life, which I have already done, but I will be scaling it, and hopefully with the experience from Stanford Gsb, and then getting the social entrepreneurship experience while at GSB will also help me to realize these goals as I transition from my MBA program back into full-time experience. Again, that said, Movadex will stay with me full-time again, but our goal really is to grow. And again, this is, by the way, to answer the question that was asked previously, this is the beauty of being an entrepreneur, because you craft your own workday and you craft what it is that you are doing. So I think that with that in mind, as I said a bit earlier in this life, the life will bring you as it will, and you have to kind of be open to the opportunities coming your way. But Movadex is the baby I have been raising so far, so I think that it will be something I will be pursuing also post MBA, on top with the social entrepreneurship activities. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, absolutely. I think the next question was around a little bit more, I think, tactically around your application experience. So I
Yep.
think this person wanted to learn more about kind of what you wrote about in the essay, what matters to you most and why. Obviously, we don't have to dive, into every
Oh,
line
yeah.
in your essay, but, kind of generally, how would you advise answering it? How did you answer it? And kind of your experience with that.
Yep. So the self-reflection exercise I talked about in the beginning, I think this is the crucial step. If I can give the advice, that's what you should do. And the first step of writing this essay. I also think that this is uh, such an amazing template, right? The question that they ask, because I think it also repeats year after year, and it applies also not only for the MBA program, but for other programs too. And here, I think that you should focus on your life experience. I'll tell you how I went about it. So my core was really showing the admissions team how I became who I am today. So I started with the experience I had when I was 15. So it really is going back in time. And then I kind of looped through the same theme, but in the new reality of the things that I have been experiencing at different stages of my life. So it was really showing about how I grew personally. And I think that this is uh, one strategies that you can approach this question with to show why it exactly matters to you. In my case, it was freedom, impact, life. Really kind of going through the past experience I've had, starting with my family background, not just me, really helped me to better understand in that self-reflection process what it is that matters to me most and why. And then that should also kind of echo your next steps, right? Because logically, if you would think, you would be focusing in your life on something that matters to you, right? And you would be doing something that you're passionate about. So I think this is kind of why they're asking this question, but it also gives them this great insight into who you are as a personality, as a person.
Absolutely. And I think it's, kind of open-ended almost intentionally too.
True.
Because you get to share a little bit more about yourself and what you choose to share in your story and how you share it.
Yep, and I think like with that also like MBA, their application is, as I said, really well crafted, and you have many places to put other experiences in. So don't feel like this is the one place to shine. There are so many other short essays, optional essays, where you can just talk about your many of your experiences. And I did use other places where I could put some of the stories that either were humorous or more on the personal angle. Really choose what it is that you want to show and to make like they truly approach and they truly read application very thoroughly, because my story just shows that it's not the one metric that defines you, and their admissions team is very kind of aware of that, and so that's why they view the applicants holistically, and I think they spend equal amount of time on all of the aspects of the application, as they say, in their interviews and the information sessions that they host.
Absolutely. Kind of going along the kind of essay questions, I think someone was wondering, how long it really took you. I think we know like how long from a timeline perspective, but like, how many revisions did it take you? Is there a recommendation? How long did it take you to overall complete the entire, I would say, Stanford application package?
Thank you. So my goal was I looked through the packet and I put myself, I think this is how I approach any writing task. And again, I'm no expert, so you don't have to use this strategy. But my goal was to just read the templates, do not write, but think through them. And I used my camera roll for self-reflection. So I went through the photos. I kind of in a few days that I was just thinking through the template, I really focused on self-reflection process. And I have a good memory, so that allowed me not to jot down any ideas I had. I just really clarified them in my mind. And once I was ready, completely kind of agreed with my own self on what it is that I want to do, what matters to me most, and why. And I answered all these questions. I sat down, and I think the main essay, my first draft, I wrote it in like 20 minutes because I was so kind of well in tune with myself. But then comes the revision, and then comes the drafting, and you go through loops of many, many iterations. In my case, just because I had limited amount of time, I went through maybe like 7 iterations where I changed parts of my kind of the structure, the style. I went more into depth. And one of the biggest advice I've received from Greg and from mentors I had who read my essay was be specific and show your story through the details, right? Because you can just narrate through what happened, but it's not what they're looking for. You really need to show entirety of your thinking process and your personal growth journey, if it is a personal growth journey or realization, through details. And really being good writer here will also help. So I'd say entire application, the kind of first parts of it was the education, the personal background, professional background. Really didn't take much time just because, again, I had the resume prepared and I knew my story, I knew my experiences, and here it's just so well built that you just translate that, what you have already, into the application. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. I think moving over from the essays to an interview question. So can you elaborate a little bit more about your alumni interview experience? Logistically, what was that like? And then how did you handle your nerves on the big day?
Thank you. Thank you. This is a great question. So with the interview, and I think this is another thing I want to mention, is they paired me with an alumni who had a very similar interest in terms of the passion that she wanted to pursue, and she did, and the social impact angle on that really just shows again that admissions team knows their applicants and knows you really well. Same thing was the after, like post admission, like after they send you the acceptance letter and they give you a call, they also, it's like another incredible thing that they're doing. They're matching you with alumni or with current students who just tell you about their experience, and the matching that they make again really relates to your overall goal and who you are and what you want to pursue. Again, really incredible because through these conversations, I've learned more about Stanford, but I also learned about people and their journeys that really inspired me because they were so just echoing what I wanted to do. So that's one really important part of what this admissions team is doing. In terms of the interview experience, really worried. I think that with me, I went through this whole stage of fear of the public speaking, really, I think in my high school. So I overcame that part of being afraid to kind of speak through things and just like be present in the moment. But you're really worried because Stanford GSB interview is very unique. They like to probe, which means they can interrupt you and they can ask more questions and they will dig deep. So kind of to, if I say to, like, for example, contrast this interview we're having with Stacy right now, right? We're just going through the interviews. In the GSB interview, you can talk about one experience for like 20 minutes, for example, and they will be asking more and more questions. And the reason they're doing this is to make sure they completely understand you as a person. So do not be kind of, this may at first feel like kind of nerve-wracking, and for me it was something I was worried about because I knew that this is something that they do in the interviews. But I really connected well with the alumni in the very first minute, and I was just myself, right? In the interview, be yourself, because if you start to create something or think about something that is not kind of completely representative of what would happen, it really kind of, you can see that. And being transparent, being really open and being yourself, I think is crucial in these interviews. My interview lasted for like 70 minutes, I think. And I learned a lot about her experience, and she shared some of the details of her journey. So that was extremely inspiring. And I think it was also while I was studying for GMAT. So that gave me this extra boost of motivation to continue studying 12 hours a day. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the comments is saying how impressive it is to get a 650 on the GMAT with only 2 weeks of studying.
Well, I'm not the person to give advice, and I think had I had more time, I would just spend more time studying and going through. I learned the right strategy, which is to work on your mistakes and to never get the same problem wrong. This is kind of the two main things I focused on the second half of my preparation. Had I learned about these two strategies earlier on, probably would have been better. But these are the two main ones I've heard so many times in the GMAT forum, and so many other MBA students and grads have recommended me as I was studying.
Awesome. Well, Salome, I think we've covered the majority of the questions in the comment section. There's some thank you comments. These insights were extremely helpful for the folks viewing today. Any last words on, maybe people who are considering, applying for an MBA or getting an MBA, whether it's deferred or otherwise? Any advice for them on how they should start their journey, or any last words of advice?
Well, I think in my case, it's dream big. My last few months have really turned in a totally different direction, and the decision to apply to Stanford while I was still in Ukraine, to do all of these at first seemed to be both unbearable and unbelievable, but it worked out in the end. And I think that I really approached it with a open mindset, with a learning mindset, right? You learn from this experience, regardless if you get rejection or admission. This is the experience that will still be with you as you go, because this is a very powerful self-reflection, again, journey that you go through as you apply. And GMAT, I think, also teaches you a lot on how to think logically. So everything gives its benefits. So I think that this is the way you should approach it. And dream big, as I said, like Stanford for me is my dream school. And I knew why I wanted to apply, and I knew how I can excel, how I can be a member of this community. And I really look forward to fulfilling all these ideas and dreams and goals and plans that I've had. Another thing, unrelated to the MBA journey, but just because we have this floor today, again, raising awareness of what is happening in Ukraine. The war is still ongoing. There are many people who are bombed every day. We are losing our best soldiers in this fight, and this very cruel, unjustified fight, right? So raising awareness, I know the news have slowed down in the past month or so, and people are getting tired. We are getting tired, but there's no, at least for us, we cannot be silent, and we cannot not do things that we're doing right now. And even small support will save lives. So first of all, thank you to everyone from around the world for supporting Ukraine. Really, without the support, I don't know how the things would have turned out. So thank you. That's what I had to say. Really am thankful for this opportunity, both to be here today and then to pursue my MBA program journey at Stanford GSB. And yeah, happy to answer any other questions. Also, I probably can go after the live into other questions I had, probably answer them on YouTube just in case people are interested. But thank you. Thank you, Stacy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining, everyone. And thank you so much, Salome. Truly inspiring story, and looking forward to see what you do next. Awesome. Well, I'll be ending the broadcast. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye. Bye.